Have you ever looked at an old house and felt like it was staring back at you? Tonight's story isn't just about a haunted place. It's about what happens when the house stares back. This is the house across the lake. It was the summer of 2019 when Emma and her fiancé Daniel rented a cabin near Lake Harrington in upstate New York. They wanted peace, privacy, and some time away from the city before their wedding. The lake was calm, surrounded by thick pine forests. But on the opposite side of the water, half hidden in trees, stood a decaying Victorian house. Its windows were dark, its roof sagging, and the front porch leaned like it hadn't been touched in decades. The locals at the nearest diner had warned them. "Nobody stays near Harrington House. Not anymore." But Emma laughed it off. Ghost stories were just small-town legends, right? The first 2 nights were peaceful. But on the third night, Emma awoke to the sound of something across the water. It echoed faintly, sharp enough to make her heart race. She shook Daniel awake. "Did you hear that?" He groaned. "Probably some foxes. Go back to sleep." But Emma wasn't convinced. The next morning, as sunlight spilled across the lake, she took her binoculars out to look at the old Victorian house. Its windows reflected the light, except for one. On the top floor, a single curtain moved, and behind it, someone was watching. Emma swore she saw a pale face, sunken eyes fixed on her. But when she blinked, it was gone. That night, she couldn't stop staring across the lake. The house was dark, almost swallowed by the trees. But just after midnight, a light appeared in one of the upstairs rooms, a dim yellow glow. She whispered, "Daniel, wake up." But Daniel just rolled over. Alone, Emma watched. And then, the figure appeared. A tall, thin silhouette in the upstairs window, standing, perfectly still, facing her direction, as if it knew she was watching. Her breath caught in her throat. The figure didn't move until it raised a hand and slowly waved. The next day, Emma begged Daniel to take a boat across the lake, just to prove it's abandoned, she said. He finally agreed. By afternoon, they rowed across the still water, the air unnervingly quiet. No birds, no wind, nothing. The house loomed larger up close, its paint peeling, windows cracked. The porch creaked under their steps. Inside, the air was heavy with rot and mold. Faded wallpaper peeled like shedding skin. Furniture was draped in dusty sheets. "It's just old," Daniel muttered. "Nobody lives here." But Emma froze. On the floor, she saw wet footprints. Bare, human footprints. Fresh, leading up the staircase. "Daniel," she whispered. He grabbed her hand. "We're leaving." But before they could turn back, the upstairs floorboards groaned. Something was moving above them. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They bolted out the front door, sprinted to their boat, and rowed back across the lake as fast as they could. Daniel tried to laugh it off. Probably raccoons or some squatter. But Emma knew what she saw. Those footprints were human. That night, Emma refused to sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the Victorian house. At 2 a.m., the light flicked on again, the same upstairs window, the same figure. But this time, there was another, a smaller figure, a child. And then, something that made her blood run cold. The child lifted its hand, and in the exact same slow motion as the taller figure, waved. Emma slammed the curtains shut. The following morning, Daniel decided they should leave the cabin early. He packed the car, but when Emma stepped outside, she froze. Across the lake, on the Victorian porch, two figures stood, watching. The tall one and the child, both motionless. Emma whispered, "Daniel, they followed us." He turned, but when he looked, the porch was empty. That night, Emma insisted on sleeping in the living room, far from any window facing the lake. But sometime after midnight, she awoke to a noise. Dripping. She sat up. The ceiling was dry. The kitchen faucet was shut. The sound was coming from the front door. Her hands shook as she crept closer. A puddle of lake water spread under the door. Slowly, the door handle began to turn. Emma screamed for Daniel, but when he came running, the door swung wide open. No one was there, just the empty, silent forest. But on the porch were fresh, wet footprints, leading inside. The next day, Daniel drove Emma straight back to town. They found the sheriff, who reluctantly told them the truth. The Victorian house once belonged to the Harrington family, parents and a little girl. In 1952, they all drowned in the lake. Their bodies were found at different times, dragged up to the shore. But according to legend, the spirits never left their house. "Some say," the sheriff muttered, "they still look across the water, searching for someone to join them." Emma felt sick. That night, back at their own apartment in the city, Emma tried to push it from her mind. She drew the curtains, checked every lock, and crawled into bed. But at 2 a.m., she awoke to the faint sound of dripping water. And across the room, in the shadows by her window, stood the tall figure. Behind it, the child. Both waving. If you're still here, you've survived the house across the lake. But tell me, what would you have done? Rode across to the house, or left the second you saw that face in the window? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, the whisper you hear in the dark might not be your imagination. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe Whispering Image if you dare.